right. Thank you for reminding me. I'm a Paltiel.
Thank you. You are now at your participant number 3.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks to Daniel Yaluz, he reminded me to dial in. Okay, so we are 3 lines from the bottom. The line starts with the word Oir Atzmi. Mem Zayin. Lichveidi le'acher. The pasuk actually not lichveidi, ukveidi le'acher lo yatin. And apparently this lichveidi is maybe a Blitz Zakumas, because the pasuk is another pasuk. Kol hanikra bishmil v'nichvoidi b'rosi v'tzartem avasisif, that everything was created as lichvoidi. And then there's another pasuk, as I mentioned, said ukvoidi li'acher lo yetin. That kvoidi, that was the reality of a lakus le'acher lo yetin, cannot be transmitted and transferred to anything else. This exists only in the very presence of a lakus itself. As we discussed several times over this week. That even though he becomes kvoidi, and there is a whole embracing reality, and it affects many things, that embracing reality is not something that is bestowed separately from the source. It always remains kvoidi. It always remains representing the source itself. As we discussed last night, that there are certain aspects, even in human reaction, that is a reaction not due to any kind of a koyach, but a reaction to the reality, due to the reality of the person, of the human being himself. Like we says embarrassment and so forth. This is beyond any kind of experience. So, the point that is being made here is a phenomenal thing that clarifies a whole principle. How is it possible that there should be chitzonim, literally chitzonim, something that does not contain, not represent any kind of internal reality? It's all based on chitzonius. And that is due to the fact that the entire oir that goes through Seder Hishtalshelus is only a haor. Does not have an inyan atzmi. And to us, this is extremely meaningful, because we're constantly trying to identify the difference, the phenomenal difference, but yet it's a little bit camouflaged. The difference between the Torah view, the sense of the reality of the world based on what the Rambam says, that there is a motzui rishin, mamtzi kol nimtza, as compared to the chitzonistic view, which is a whole science explaining the chitzonistic view. Action and reaction and so forth. And the difference is precisely in this nakuda. Chitzonistic view is a haora, which means that the whole process is due to one affecting the other and observing the other. Whereas the true perspective and the true presence in the world is the Ayin Eliki that is present in the world. And this is what we are learning now, that this real Ayin, the Ayin Atzmi, Likvoidi, that we haven't come to this fully yet, that actually is brought to the world via Torah mitzvahs. It is not in the existence of the world per se. The world per se is only haora. When Torah mitzvahs comes to the world, that gives the world a real presence. And this is what the Gemara says. Chazal say that up until Yom HaShishi, of Sivan, up until Matan Torah, the world was a tenuous existence. Tenuous, everybody knows what that means, right? And it says, Eretz Yoreh called Eretz, the earth itself was fearful for its existence. By Matan Torah, it calmed down because then it acquired a sense of reality. Okay. Let's continue with 3 lines from the bottom. So principally we're saying that the Seder Hishtalshelus is all in a Haora. And because of this, it is possible that through a lengthy process of Hishtalshelus, there should come out to be Chitzonim, Mamish Chitzonim, that which is just a mirage of an existence. And yet it exists. So the Rebbe comes out like, "Agam de hizavas hasitra achra." Although that the sitra achra, the presence of a sitra achra, who mehahalomes mehasteirim, it actually is effectuated due to halomes mehasteirim, to additional concealments of the haor. We said before that Seder Hishtalshelus ultimately allows for the presence of Chitzonim, but actually, because it's a haora, but this Havas and Sitra Achra is mihalomis ve'aserim, it's an additional effect of halomis. V'hainu, which means to say, shein is havusa miguv ha'haora. They are not representing the guv ha'ora, the ha'ora lekis itself. Kmei ha'nivroim, like the other nivroim, which is not sitra achra. Nivroim in the world. Shein ha'ora mikei ha'leki, the nivroim are ha'ora from koyach ha'leki hamhava. That creates. As he explains in Tanya, that this is a ha'ora mikeach haleki, and it is a koyach haleki that maintains their presence. In contrast, the sitra achra means the other side. Essentially, sitra achra means that which actually rejects Elikus and opposes Elikus. Ei mitziyusam ha'ora, chas v'sholem. Their mitziyus is not chas v'sholem a ha'ora mihakoyach ha'eliki, a ha'ora of a godly koyach. Because we said before, that is, I'm going back to 6 lines from the bottom, in the previous, Amitzias achitzenim shenizhavu gam ki mekoyach eliki. The chitzenim is also mekoyach eliki. Venim shelam chayes meyat, they also get chayes from Atam Chayes Kula. So the Rebbe explains, but we have to clearly distinguish. There is the Nivroim and there is the Sitra Achra, the chitzenim, that do not acknowledge and cannot acknowledge Din Holocaust. Because their creation is not from Ha'ora Holocaust, but this is from Halamis V'Hestain, from intentional concealment. They cannot be a Chitzayin, Sitra Achra, from a Seder Hishtalshalus, even though that it's a Hishtalshalus in Ha'ora. That has to be a specific Halamis V'Hestain. Ashen kan Sitra Achra ei mitziyusim ha'ora chazesholem meho'akeich ha'leki, a ha'ora from the koyach ha'leki, ki mitziyusim hu, but rather their mitziyus, their presence, is min halabushim ha'ma'alinim, from the garments that conceal. It is not directly from the Ha'ora Eliki, from the garments that conceal. I'd like to get into this. This is an extremely important. If we can get the gist of the message in here. And we have already made illustration, because we are constantly pointing to the scientific view of the world, which has been extremely greatly developed, this view, and it's all, not only it's in the Ha'ora, it is from Lavushem HaMa'alim. It does not even allude to a truth. Lavushem HaMa'alim. For instance, the principle of gravity. So Chassidus explains this is just a touch of it. That gravity represents a godly principle, namely that everything draws back to its source. This is true Beruchnis and this is true Begashmis. In other words, the whole principle that everything goes back to its source, if we follow through logically, it means that everything has a source. It's not self-made. And it's not representing itself, representing basically its source, and that's where it draws back to its source. There is a significance in the rock falling to the ground. There's a significance in the fire rising up that we had in Tanya lately, in these days. That fire rises up to its source. Fire rises up to its source. What is the worldview? What is the scientific quote-unquote view? that this is all contained within the entity itself. The rock falls because it is because the earth pulls it. Because the bigger body in the physical world, the bigger body has power over the smaller body, whatever that explanation is. And fire rises because fire is lighter than the air around it, and the air around it pushes it upwards. Heat rises up because heat is lighter than the same material in cold. There is not an allusion to any kind of a true principle in this. It's all contained on the factual and the physical level. This is called a levushim hamalim. This is like a garment. Yes, this is what we observe. And that levush conceals the principle behind it, the godly principle behind it, what it really represents. What is a godly principle? A godly principle is that everything is representing this one principle, that there's a motzu rishe mamtzi kol nimtzu. There's a first being that brings everything forth. And anything that exists must represent an aspect of this mamtzi kol nimtzu, of the source that creates it. That cannot be totally eliminated, then the object would cease to exist. And this is what we're saying. Sitra achra is not a natural descent, hishtalshelus. Because no matter how far the hishtalshelus, it cannot lose the sense of this motzudisha mamchikol nimtza in a very minimal manner. For example, in our little world, we mention all the time there's a chasana. And the chasana represents a great simcha, and the people, the hosts, are very lavish, serving them and greeting their guests and making everything very comfortable for them. And there are all kinds of different people around it, different guests. There are guests who are truly connected and involved and in the simcha of the host. There are those who are come along, and those who will come along for the company, all kinds of different principles. Those who come along because they want to eat. It's also conceivable. Although today, Baruch Hashem, nobody is hungry, but it used to be definitely a possibility. Still, there is the cognizance that why is there food here now? Because there's a simcha. There's a host. There's appreciation. There's some kind of reality. Except that this particular individual, he sees it from the garment perspective. His interest is in the food itself, not the presence of the host. And here is where the difference could be. There's one who really is not interested in the host at all. The food is what draws him. And if the chos and kala enter in the hall, and everybody goes to dance, he's disturbed by it. Why are you disturbing my meal? It's consumable. This is when the one is into the levush, not the reality at all. But that's sitra achra. The normal being, even the one who is the least sensitive, still senses there is something going on. And therefore he has a shaykhus to the reality. It's a ha'ora. This is what the Rebbe is saying, that the sitra achra is also from koyach halaki, but this is from the ha'ora, from the koyach halaki, and this from the levushim v'amastirim. He translates it in his own way. He does not relate to it in the way it is given to him. He relates to it through its garment, through the means by which he grasps it. This is the levush. And I would like to make a final statement. I'm constantly jabbing at this scientific view which has confused many of our people. This is science. Oblivious to any kind of reality. And from this has devolved a point where the human being is also being understood and treated at that level. A person has an emotional problem, a mental problem. Come, I'll fix you. Have you ever heard such a term? I'll fix you.
Yeah,
Huh?
I have heard such a term, yeah.
Ridiculous. It's the most insulting statement I ever heard. Because and their fixing is actually detrimental to the health of the person. Instead of bringing chayas, they drain him of chayas. I've seen it with my own eyes. People that went to be fixed by a therapist, and they came back sick, incapable to do anything. 10 times worse. It took me months to get him back to a state of life. I said, no more therapists. Come, I'll fix you. What can be more of a lavush mastir than taking a human being, saying, I'll fix you? But there is no reality, there's no nefesh, no life. How are you going to fix it? I couldn't control myself. I had to mention it because it really aggravates me, and I hope slowly but surely, certainly people who learn to our shir will never be swayed by this stupidity. This is it for this morning.
It's not shy.
Huh?
It's not that shy when you're here. It's not. It's not that. You're not looking.
Have a good day.